Hey guys, this is Raquan with Start to Finish Customs, and today we're going to do part 2 of how you can instantly make money woodworking. So a while back I made my girlfriend a noodle board or stove cover, and she really loved it. I made a post on Facebook saying I made this for the wife, and it gained a lot of traction from people on my Facebook, and a lot of people started placing orders. So I have to fulfill this order. We're gonna make this one out of cherry. I went to SketchUp, I made some plans. I'll make these plans digital and offer them to you for free down in the description. Just give me a few days after I post a video to get that link down there. So just keep checking in. I'll make a quick post, let you guys know when those plans are available, if they're not available at the time you're watching this video. Since I have a small shop, the first thing I do is measure and mark my boards to get them to smaller stock so it's easier to work with. If you have a bigger shop, or if your shop allows it, you can do this later. Next, I take my boards over to the miter saw and I cut them about 2 inches longer than the actual length, just to leave room for error or joinery and just the milling process. So I don't have a typical miter station, so I have to hold my boards here as I cut so they don't go flying or into the blade and potentially mess up my square edge. To the joiner. This is a new tool in my shop. I bought this off of Facebook for $200 after some calibration, some paste wax. I'm very pleased with the results that I'm having so far. So I take each board and I joint the face, make sure I get one square face. Then I take that same board, put the face against the fence, and get one smooth straight edge, just so that I could take it to the planer and have a reference to get those opposite faces squared to the edge, and then take it over to the table saw to complete the milling process. Now that I have all of my boards the same thickness, everything is nice and square, I get my 24-inch Bremen parallel clamps that I got from Harbor Freight. Very good deal. I'll drop a link to that down in the description if you're interested. And I didn't do anything special with this glue up. I didn't use biscuits or dominoes or dowels or anything like that. just used good old tight bond glue. Made sure I had even clamping pressure, not too tight, but just enough to get that nice even squeeze out that you see here. And then I tape a few scrap boards that I know to be flat and create some cawls. Now I put this blue tape over top of the boards just so the glue didn't stick to them and then I mess up my nice stove cover base. So I got everything clamped up. Everything looks really nice. I'm excited. So now we're gonna let it sit overnight and we'll come back tomorrow, take the clamps off and start sanding. Okay, so the glue is dry. I removed the clamps and now I am uncomfortably sanding the hell out of this board, and I'm being pretty aggressive because I had to squeeze out the glue dried in my seams and I really want to smooth that out. So you see me putting an angle to the sander and really getting in those seams. That's why everything is square. I'm very happy with the result. It's coming out really nice, but some of those seams I really just wanted to get the glue off and have a nice smooth finish. So I take my panel over to the table saw and just straighten out those edges, and I'm using my miter gauge for this just to make sure that everything is nice and square. If you have a crosscut sled that's big enough, you can use that also, or a track saw or circular saw will work just as good. Now that we have one square edge, I flip the board and run it through again using my fence as a reference this time instead of the miter gauge. So we got our panel cut down to final length. Now we're going to work on the sides, which are also the handles. And I have this template here that I used for the last stove cover that I made. So I'm just going to put these two boards, the left and the right one, I'm going to put them on top of each other. And then I'm going to place this template over top and trace that pattern onto the new boards. Now we're going to take it to the bandsaw and cut it out. Okay, so ideally when cutting curves at a bandsaw you would use a much smaller blade, but since I didn't have one, I just left more material and try to get as close to the line as possible, and whatever I don't get here I will just trim down at the sander. So if you have double-sided tape, use that instead of the painter's tape, because as you cut your curves, you're going to cut the seal on the tape and it's no longer going to hold the boards together. But we got this cut. I'll show you how close I got to the pencil line and then we'll finish this up at the sander. Okay, so I have a confession to make. I had double-sided tape the whole time. I was just being lazy, and the painter's tape is a lot easier to work with and it's a lot quicker. But I soon found out that the painter's tape was just not going to work, so I made the proper adjustments and sucked it up and used the double-sided tape. Back to the music. Okay, so I got my handles or sides cut at the bandsaw and then sanded down at the oscillating sander from Win. This is my first time using that sander from Win, and it did pretty good. So now I need to lay out this handle inside of here. I need to lay it out and then drill the holes with the Forstner bit, and then probably come back around with a jigsaw to cut out the middle. So I'm going to take my Woodpecker's precision square and to about where this second curve makes this line. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Best of my ability. And I'm going to come an inch in. And 4 more inches over. I'm going to make my lines down at the top and bottom. I'm going to do the same thing up here. So this is a mistake. I'm only making my lines an inch away from each other, but my Forstner bit is 1.5 inches. So as you can see, I have to go back in here and make my lines 1.5 inches apart from each other so that I can use them as proper references when I drill my holes. But if you're following along, no worries, this is an easy fix. We made the lines shorter, so that middle part is going to get cut out anyway, so it's okay. We're just going to make the line another 1/2 inch down and we'll be good to go. So here I'm making that line on both boards, and then we're going to clamp the material down. I always put a scrap piece underneath. We want to avoid as much tear out. I'm not going to drill through these at the same time. I'm going to do them separately. Okay, so now we can see this starting to come together. I need to take the sides or handles over to the spindle sander, clean that up. I made sure I cut on the inside of my line just in case, because I have the world's dullest jigsaw blade. So I knew it wasn't going to be a smooth cut, but I'm pretty happy with how that worked out. I got this back piece here. I cut this long just to make sure I give myself enough room to trim it down. We're going to cut it down to final width, line it up with the top of these handles. And I also left it long because I don't know what kind of joinery I want to use yet to connect the handles to the backs. At first I was thinking I wanted to do box joint, but now I think the box joints are going to be too big. I made my handle too close to the end. I should have thought about that. We can do that in the next one maybe. Or I was thinking about doing some type of a rabbit, but I want to keep the width. Okay, so I've decided how I'm going to joint the sides to the back, and I'm going to use dowels. And if this is a little too advanced for you, you can definitely do this using pocket holes or just drilling your screws, your countersinks and your screws right down here through the back, and then just plugging those holes with something. That'll work just fine. You may even get somewhat of the same look. But I like to challenge myself, and this is how I want to do it. It's going to leave me enough room. I'm going to put 2 dowels on each side, and then we'll have our frame to the stove cover. And how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to line it up. So I've already drew my lines over here, and I'm just going to line it up so that it is flush. I took my double square, placed it against this edge, like this, and I drew my line. So what I'm going to be using to put these together are 3/8 inch dowels with this doweling jig that I got from Rockler, and the dowels that come with it. Let me note that the dowels and the doweling jig are sold separately. You can get them from the same place, but I did not buy them as a bundle. So I get this lined up to my line, and I clamp them together. And I use 2 clamps here because I tried it the first time and the jig actually started to move as I put pressure using the drill. So I used 2 clamps just to make sure that that jig wasn't going to go anywhere. And it was a bit tedious, as you saw. I dropped it a handful of times until I finally got it to stay in place and I was able to clamp that in. But nonetheless, it worked, and now we're drilling that hole all the way through. Now for the sides, I was able to use a much smaller clamp, and this went a lot smoother. The only thing that I suggest you do, just make your lines a little bit longer the first time, so it's easier to see when you're getting your jig lined up. Other than that, I was able to get this jig clamped down tight enough to not cause me any issues and drill these holes just fine. I placed some painter's tape around my drill bit just so I know when to stop drilling, since we weren't drilling all the way through. And this worked just fine. We got all the holes drilled. Now it's time to do a dry fit. Make sure everything lines up. It's best to do that before making this permanent. And as you can see, everything looks great. Now that I know everything's gonna fit, I get my glue bot out, I check my phone, and I fill the holes with glue. I place the dowels inside the handles, and then I smother the dowels with the glue. And I'm using Titebond 3, just in case you were wondering. This is going to be in a kitchen, so there's a possibility it may get wet, and Titebond 3 is the most water resistant, maybe even waterproof. But I get these in here, and now the most satisfying part is I get to release some anger, pull my rubber mallet out, and pound these in. So I'm pounding these in, and it is super tight. I ended up going and grabbing a small clamp and helping me finish this off here. Just a little bit more force is all that I needed, and that helped me close up that seam and have a nice joint there. And I'm pretty satisfied with it. This turned out exactly as I was hoping it would, and we got just a little bit of that dowel sticking out the end. I check and make sure that it's still square by placing the frame over top of the base. And now we're going to flush cut these dowels to the surface. I'm going to place some painter's tape around the dowels where I'm going to be cutting, just to make sure that we don't damage our piece and only cut those dowels off. Please be careful if you're doing this. I don't want anyone to get hurt. If you're interested in this saw though, I'll drop the link in the description. Yes, I'm using pocket holes to connect the base to the frame. The pocket holes are going to be hidden, and since I need a certain width and I've already come this far, I figured this is going to be the best way to do this. And for a beginner, this is an easy way to secure any joint. So I'm drilling my pocket holes around 3 sides of the board, excluding the front. But as you can see here, as I just said that, I accidentally drilled 1 pocket hole in the front, but I caught it before it went all the way through. I don't want to hide my mistakes here. I want to show you guys that mistakes are made, just like I tried to use that 24-inch clamp, knowing that this was 26 inches wide. So I go back and I get a much larger Jorgensen F-style clamp, because when you're putting these pocket screws in, it tends to shift. So you want to clamp your material together. Make sure as you torque that screw in there that nothing's moving and everything is still flush. I don't know why I keep checking my phone while I'm working, but please disregard that. So I'm moving my clamp up because, like I said, I want to keep everything nice and flush. So I do both sides and make sure that everything is nice and snug and stays in place. Now everything has come together, and I'm gonna sand at 180 grit, get it nice and smooth before finishing. So for finish, I'm using the Rubio Monocoat Pure 2C, and this finish turns out beautiful. I'm not going to explain to you guys how to apply this finish because I did that in my last video, part 1, where we made the cutting board. If you guys want, I'll put a link down in the description to that video. So if you're interested, I can teach you how to apply that finish in that video. It's a great video. Go and watch it, especially if you're a beginner. But this turned out beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I did. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and while you're down there, hit that bell icon to get notified of all the new content. I will drop links to everything that I use in this video down below in the description. But until next time, go ahead and make you one of these stove covers and have fun doing it.